Aloha, this is The Art of Life, and I'm your host, Willow Chang Leon. We broadcast live every Friday from 2 to 3, sometimes a little bit on Hawaiian time, but always happy to be here. I'm so thrilled to have our guest today because we tried to get her a couple of different times. She's a busy lady, and then the flu came and kicked her in the butt, but she's back victorious and healthy. We have none other than Lola Love. She is the founder and producer of Pretty Peacock Productions, and she's in the house.
Yay, thanks for having me.
And although she only has one head, she's like many of our guests here at ThinkTech Hawaii on our show. She wears many hats, event producer.
Yes.
You are an instructor of dance, the Academy of Tease, perhaps co-founder or founder?
Founder, yes.
Founder. How do you like that? The Academy of Tease, founding member of Cherry Blossom Cabaret, and just doing all kinds of fun things in addition to being a mom and juggling all this stuff. So thank you for making time for us on First Friday, which historically is a busy time of the month for you guys because you guys are so embedded and entrenched in the Chinatown art scene. So welcome.
Thank you.
Tell me, because our guests out there might be wondering, how did you get into the wonderful, magical, elusive world of burlesque and performance and dance and all the things that you do?
So I've danced since I was a child, but I found burlesque in a rather non-glamorous way. I had just moved here and I didn't know anybody, so I went on Craigslist community section and was just going through and seeing what was happening, and the co-founder of Cherry Blossom Cabaret, Megan Mayhem, had posted looking for burlesque dancers. So I was like, yay, perfect. So there wasn't a troupe or any burlesque on the island since, I want to say maybe possibly the 70s, 80s, early 80s, I think. So it was, together we created Cherry Blossom Cabaret, which I'm no longer a part of, but I still am friends with them, and they're still performing burlesque on the island.
So, and the secret is that my mom actually used to work with Jack Sion way back in the day and would assist in booking acts. So prior to the 70s and the 80s, because we also have a lot of service people that come through on the islands, that's what happens when you are militarily strategically placed in the middle of the Pacific, a lot of the gurus and the rock stars of the burlesque scene, including Tempest Star, to name a few, came through the island. So maybe there might have been a lull, and maybe it goes through waves, but I'm sure there are those who would say that the female form and the art of the tease never goes out of style.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of burlesque historians who have a difference in opinion that it ever disappeared.
Right.
It just wasn't as prominent, and it was more underground. But yeah.
Which brings us to a really interesting topic that you bring up, is that it kind of had maybe like a subculture, or it was underground, or might it be considered fringe, any of these types of descriptions to describe that. But now it seems very much, for lack of a better word, mainstream. So what do you think has assisted in that process? I would guess the internet, but I'm sure there's many other factors.
You know, I feel like times have changed, and as women have become more comfortable with their sexuality and okay with seeing others, and just, it's a different time now. And you know, Dita Von Teese helped a lot too to bring it more to the mainstream, because until her, there wasn't really a neo burlesque performer that was in the public eye. So she's done a really good job to bring it to become a household term that people are familiar with.
Fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of burlesque? I think for some people they might think that that's interchangeable with cabaret or vaudeville or whatnot, and yet those are all quite different. So could you maybe educate us on that?
Okay, so basically in the 1800s it was happening, and back then the women would play male characters, and Lydia Thompson is one of the first burlesque performers, and it was risque back then to just show your tights and things like that. And basically, burlesque means to make a mockery of. So it wasn't necessarily striptease. It could be anything, and it still can be anything. It can be comedic sketches, it can be dances, songs, it can be striptease, which people think of, but that's not it. That's not all of it. And then it got brought to the United States, and the Minskys, and just there's so many burlesque performers. And then it kind of, when American stripping started becoming popular, that's when it kind of started to die out. And then I would say in the 90s, the great revitalization of burlesque happened from LA, and since then it's just grown tremendously. So,
yeah. Indeed. Now I'm curious, would you include someone like Josephine Baker in that lineage?
She's
Folie
definitely
Berger and Crazy Horse. Are those like different branches of what fits under the burlesque umbrella?
I mean, I don't consider myself the decider of burlesque, but I consider them burlesque. I think that a lot of things are burlesque. I definitely consider Josephine Baker. Some people will argue that Crazy Horse is more cabaret than burlesque, and that could be true, but for me, I think it's burlesque. I don't personally believe that you have to do traditional burlesque and traditional striptease to be burlesque.
So what components do you think definitely are necessary for burlesque? I would assume an audience is kind of necessary.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if people like perform just for themselves in front of a mirror.
So you definitely need an audience, and I think the most important things are self-confidence, character, and breaking the fourth wall, which just means engaging with the audience a little bit. And then, you know, it's always great to have a little bit of sense of humor, and if you can. Not every number is funny, but it's always nice.
Think about that, the element of humor. And we're going to cut away to a commercial. We'll be right back on the art.
Here's the deal. I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is the Energy Policy Forum's program on Wednesday. That's how we call Wednesday Energy Wednesday. We call it Energy Wednesday every Wednesday. Are you surprised? Okay, and we try to get guys like Jim Alberts here from Hawaiian Electric who can tell us what's really going on in energy. We want to be informed. It's so important. It's the most important initiative in our state. Clean energy is major, okay? And that's how we cover it on this show. That's the deal. What do you think, Sharon?
I think that's great. That's why we're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5, and we hope you all join us so we can hear people like Jim coming on our show, and co-host Ray Starley from Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here today. You've seen this. You heard what she said. What do you think?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people to come together and talk about the issues. Oftentimes there isn't a good forum to bring these key issues out into the public, and this is a tremendous way to go about it. And the activity of this show is essential to keep talking about energy, because as you said, it's such an essential part of our lives that we need to pay attention to it, and we need to think about the future.
Okay, Ray, your turn.
Well, this is a special time in the history of Hawaii where we're making some pretty radical changes in the way we use energy and generate energy. And this show is the one place you can count on coming to every Wednesday and hearing something about the latest issues that are on the table, being discussed, that will affect us all going forward. So come join us, and if you have some ideas you want to share with us about energy, give us a call and let us know. We'll put you up here and let you talk for an hour. So come see us.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jim. It's great to be, from ThinkTech's point of view, it's great to have this show. We love the show. It's our most important show. So come around and listen to us 4 to 5 on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
This is The Art of Life, and you just saw the logo for Pretty Peacock Productions, which is founded by none other than Lola Love. She's a fellow bon vivant and an entertainer extraordinaire. I've seen you in many different capacities in town, but you also travel with frequency. I believe you've gone to BurlesqueCon. I've seen the pictures. So tell us that about the BurlesqueCon or these conventions that happen outside of Honolulu.
Okay, so I've been lucky enough to travel and sometimes performing. So other festivals I've performed at the New York Burlesque Festival, and I'm getting ready to go to the Vancouver Burlesque Festival. But BurlesqueCon is not for performing, it's for teaching or learning. About 600 people every year go to Seattle and attend BurlesqueCon, and it's like 4 days of anything burlesque. So business classes, costuming classes, dance classes, and I'm the programming director of BurlesqueCon. So I basically develop the curriculum and the social events.
Girl, you're high on the food chain. How do you get any sleep? Because I think when you get that many people who are passionate about anything and you convene, I mean, there must be some pretty amazing slumber parties happening.
Yeah,
and a lot of talking and a lot of sharing and the pranksters. And how did they drive their butt to class the next day?
By Sunday, it's very difficult.
The feathers are wilting, the glitter is fading.
Lots of coffee, lots of tea. And we have yoga in the morning and Zumba, and we have all sorts of classes to recharge people throughout the day. So we have snack stations, and this year we'll have meditation circles. And so whatever we can do to provide quiet spaces. We have a library with lots of books on burlesque and vaudeville and things, so you can take little naps, and so yeah, people manage.
Now I'm sure some of our viewers out there might say Zumba and meditation, and those are things that I do, and I think that that's something that's really interesting for our audience to consider, is that the elements that go into making a performer or creating even a performance, it's a lot of cross-pollination. It's not simply just retreads of the greats, the late greats, or what's been established. I mean, there's always to boldly go where no BurlesqueCon has gone before.
Right.
To borrow it from Star Trek.
Right.
So what are the current trends that happen? I mean, I know within the world of Oriental belly dancing, there was a time when it was like old-timey and Victorian things and little bloomers and ruffles with the tribal fusion, and then there was kind of a foray and a return to like things from the 70s, and right now certain people have rediscovered Egyptian fringe, so they're excited about costume with extensive fringe and beading. And some of those things are stylistic, and some of them are music or movement oriented, and some of them are costuming. What kind of trends have come and gone and cycled through?
So I think costume-wise right now, the thing that is in are cage costumes. It's like these elastic ensembles that are literally elastic. Maybe they have rhinestones on them. That seems to be the trend costume-wise. As far as an act, I don't think there's a trend. It's so diverse. And I think maybe that's the trend right now. There's so many performers from different backgrounds coming into burlesque. So there's aerialists and ballerinas and fire performers, circus performers. So it's quite diverse. You could never really say that there's a specific trend. It's really unique to the individual.
I'm curious where these overlap, or if they would be under the same umbrella. Like drag culture has like its own very specific type of array of performances, but then they seem to overlap. So is burlesque limited towards or for women, or is it kind of like anything goes?
Anything goes. There's male performers who we call boylesquers. There's drag burlesque performers. There's gender fluid burlesque performers. There's female performers. There's women impersonating men. It's basically anything goes. It's a very inclusive art form.
Is there any Victor or Victoria things? A woman impersonating a man, impersonating a woman?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Ooh, fantastic. So you have you've taught a lot of people about the art of burlesque, and I'm curious, when a student comes to class, say they've had no performance experience whatsoever, what are like the essential things that would be taught or maybe approached in a coursework or something like that?
So all of our students at the Academy of Tease, they start at the basics. We call it Burlesque Basics. And you learn basically posture and standing with confidence, moving with grace, simple glove peels, and the history of burlesque. And from there, once you complete that, you can go to very specific topics, so boas and fans and things like that. And then we offer workshops that are character development and comedic timing and interacting with the audience and things like that. So you can really get a wide range of everything you need to take on the stage. And we spend a lot of time with other types of performers. So a lot of belly dancers, drag performers, they come and take classes because they aren't quite, maybe they don't know how to choreograph a number, or maybe they're feeling afraid of the audience and they just need to get comfortable on stage. So we teach a lot of that. And then we have the student troupe, which is the Rhinestone Review, and that's kind of for the devoted student who wants to have performance opportunities and really just, you know, study burlesque twice a week at minimum. So there's a big range of classes that you can take depending on your interests.
I'm curious if there tends to be one group or community that jumps ship to burlesque. So, I mean, in a place like Hawaii, it's rather common to find a lot of hula dancers that hop into, let's say, belly dancing. In tango, there's quite a few people who do martial arts that jump into tango and then they become obsessed with tango. And I'm curious if there's any one group of like, I was a ballerina, but now I'm gonna bump it with the trumpet.
There's literally everything. We have belly dancers, we have heterosexual males, we have gay males, we have people without any performance background at all. We have hula dancers, ballerinas, hip-hop dancers, theater. It's really random. We have 20-year-olds, we have 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds. So it's interesting because it attracts a lot of different people, and you can't really put any specific, you can't guess what it is. It's really random who ends up liking burlesque. Definitely young women in their 20s love it, but those that stick to it, that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. Interesting. You talked about timing, and that's something I think that's so essential. Timing is pretty much everything in life. And then in the arts and in a performance context, whether that's giving a speech or presentation or maybe doing a burlesque number, or for musicians, for dancers, that power of the pause is really, really important. And when I've had a chance to see the various performers, yourself included, I would say 9 times out of 10, what I think sets someone apart is their ability to use their sense of timing. I mean, even more so than the costume or their music choice or even their movement qualities. It's like, how can they use timing to their benefit? How was that something that was taught to you? How did you come upon that discovery? Because I don't think it's necessarily an obvious thing.
Right. It's interesting because it's not something that somebody taught me. It's just something I learned from dancing. I think that the way I hear music is a lot different than the average person because I'm a little tone deaf, so I don't understand music. I've never played an instrument. I have to feel it, and I come from a Brazilian samba background, so we dance to drums, and it's not 8 counts of this and 8 counts of that. It's when the break happens, the drum break, then you move into this next bit of choreography. So it releases the thinking of dancing of, oh, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can't do that really because you have to listen to the music. So I come from a very different perspective than, say, even another trained dancer does. If you came from a jazz or a ballet background, just because we're all trained to dance to counts. And then by studying Congolese dance and samba, I had to throw that away, which actually was a blessing in disguise, although it was really hard for me to just stop counting. So I just listen to music, and I try to teach musicality to my students because a lot of people tend to choose a more obvious rhythm, you know, so it's like trying to teach people to listen to the other instruments that maybe play there in the background, or this ding ding on the side, or tempo and things like that. So it just happened naturally. I think the thing that I had the hardest time with was stillness, like just stopping for moments. That's the hard part.
I'm curious, you've been involved in many different productions here locally and also festivals. And I'm going to ask you the question that I loathe, which is, you know, you've been involved a lot with Hullabaloo and then with the Carnival, with Mardi Gras, a lot of outdoor things. Do you have a preference? I mean, each one has its own flavor, but do you find that certain events are more, I don't know, more open, or they embrace what you do as an artist, as a performer?
They're so different. So nothing gives I mean, you can't really compare dancing at Mardi Gras for literally thousands of people to dancing in a theatrical venue. Like, they're so completely different. I think that I enjoy them for different reasons. I enjoy the festival with the huge audience because it's energetically, it feeds you and it gets you really excited and happy, and it's nice to look out to a sea of people. But they're not necessarily fans of what you're watching, of what they're watching. They don't they don't always understand. Whereas in a theater setting, they made the choice to come to the show, and they know a little bit more, and maybe they're both very different. So I don't really have a preference. The thing that I think my preference is, like, writing and producing a show, like a theater show, and then watching that audience. That's kind of my favorite part of all of it.
And you are just on the heels of launching your second show, but let's backtrack a little. Last year you had a show called Electric Dreams.
Neon Dreams.
Neon
yes.
Dreams. Ooh, Electric Dreams is like an
It's
80s
close.
movie. But, oh my goodness. Wow.
Yes.
I mean, super sugoi. The pictures that were flooding Facebook and social media that Joe Marquez took.
He's so good.
Just amazing, amazing. So tell me about your process. Like, what is the impetus? Like, what's the seed or the nucleus of inspiration? How did you decide to come up, or how did you come up with Neon Dreams? And then tell us a little bit about Stride.
Okay. So basically, I was traveling to Maui for the past 6 years, to perform there, and I met the Ultraviolets, which are a blacklight burlesque troupe, and we had a show together, and it was a good show, but it wasn't cohesive. I'm very interested in theater and production.
Right.
So I asked if she would want to come here and give me I'm also a Virgo, so give me the control to produce the show of my choice. And she agreed because she's a troupe leader and she has to do everything. So she was like, yay, awesome, you do everything. So it took about 6 months of just kind of thinking about what I wanted to do. And then I decided I've built a character that's a character. Lola Love is a character. And I wanted to write something about my real personality. And I thought that the blacklight would give me the freedom to be as outrageous as I possibly could. So then I decided to make it about the ABCs of human desire, which for me, when I think of human desire, it makes me think of sex. So it's the ABCs of sexual desires, and not in the traditional way. It's definitely alternative thinking on love, sex, and relationships. So just it goes into, very spiritual parts of like Kundalini, into pansexuality, into lessons of safe sex. So it's just
it's like a buffet.
Yes, it's definitely a buffet. And then it's also really visually stunning because it's in the black light. And the black light gives you a lot of freedom. There's a lot of magic that you can create in the black light that real light doesn't give you the opportunity to do.
So think about that, the magic of the black light. Maybe you're going to go home and change all the lighting in your house to black light. This is The Art of Life. We'll be back with part 3, and we'll find out about Strut, Lola Love's newest show.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevlin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday.
Aloha, my name is Paul Jackson, better known as PJ, and my local interest is in sports. I have my own sports radio show at KWAI AM 1080 that you can stream live. I also have my own website, pjsportsradio.com. We have live guests in studio, and we talk about discussions and topics that everyone wants to know locally here on the islands. We cover everything from surfing to basketball to whatever's going on locally, sports-wise. We try to do our best and cover the topics in depth as much as we can. Once again, thank you for joining PJ here on Hawaii Sports Update. Mahalo.
Aloha, I'm Kili'i Akina, president of the Grassroot Institute and host on Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the ThinkTech Hawaii broadcast network. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Think of the sad alternative, let's not work together. Here in Hawaii, with all of our diversity and the richness of the people, it's important for us to come together around issues on the basis of what's right and what's good and what's going to serve the common good. And that's what we try to do at Ehana Kako. Every week we interview movers and shakers, people in government, business, and other sectors of society to talk about how to create together a better government, economy, a better world here in Hawaii that can bless the rest of the world. I thank you for your attention to ThinkTech Hawaii, and we look forward to seeing you every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. on the ThinkTech Hawaii Broadcast Network. We're Ehana Kako, and we wish you well. Aloha.
Aloha, this is The Art of Life, and this is part 3 of our interview with Lola Love. She is the founder and producer of Pretty Peacock Productions, which produced not only last year's Neon Dreams, but has an upcoming fundraiser for an event called Strut. Tell us about Strut. Woo!
So Strut is our fundraiser for Neon Dreams, and we decided to do a invitation for people who perform with us often. So we have different performers, some of our students and Miss Catwings and Foxy Knox, people who have been in previous productions, and they're donating their performances to us. And then the Pretty Peacock troupe is called the Aphrodisiacs.
They're fantastic.
Thank you.
I saw them at Hula's last month. Ooh, they were great.
They're it's more dance burlesque than burlesque. So we decided to feature some of our favorite acts from a show we did last year called Seduction. And so the first part is burlesque, and we call that the Tease, and it's just a burlesque show. And then the second set is the Seduction, and it's front projection. So it's inspired by Crazy Horse Paris, and it basically transforms the environment. So if you stick your arm out, it looks like there's waves, and it creates images on the body and on the costuming. So that's number 2 act. And then we have teasers from Neon Dreams in the 3rd act. So it's a variety show.
Ooh, it sounds like a lot of bang for the buck. No pun intended there. You know, I wanted to say this, and I hope no offense is taken, because being a child from the 80s, I grew up with Flashdance. And when I saw the Aphrodisiac, it really reminded me of that energy. It was like high energy, and it was kind of cheeky, and it was sexy, but I mean, there's nothing like vulgar, over the top, or in your face. Like, it's just the joy of watching like these wonderful women, skilled, doing their thing. And the other thing I really picked up on is that there is a synergy. Like, you can definitely tell that they enjoy dancing with each other. They enjoy each other's company, which would be akin to seeing like maybe an Aikido troupe or a hula halal, like when you can tell that people work well together, or a band that's really tight with their music. And I got the same sensation when I watched the four ladies performing that night. It's like, yeah, these people really enjoy working as a team. There was no one trying to like upstage each other. There was no like one person being the focal point. Everyone had their solos, and that was very enjoyable to watch.
Right.
For sure.
I mean, that is the number one most important part, is it has to be something everybody loves. So we just kind of create that environment, and Pretty Peacock's goal is to just nurture and support performers who want an opportunity to perform. And then we just keep it really positive. Like, you have to have skill and you have to audition, but you also have to have the right energy, because it definitely makes a huge difference when everyone's having fun and things like that. So we're really lucky. We have a good group of women that perform with us.
Fantastic. I heard, Little Bird told me that you teach in Chinatown. Can you tell us where people can find out about classes and upcoming events?
Yes. So our school is the Academy of Tease, and our website is academyoftease.com. So it's really easy. We have a Chinatown studio, and we teach all sorts of classes related to burlesque and dance. So really anything. And then private lessons. We do bachelorette and birthday parties. So if you want to get a group of your close friends together and have a party and drink wine and learn burlesque, we do that as well. So it's really fun.
Fantastic. And that's, where are you located? I want to say you're on Fort Street Mall. You're like right up the street.
Fort Street Mall, yep.
Blaisdell Hotel?
Blaisdell Hotel.
I should say the historic Blaisdell Hotel.
The only hotel with a man-operated elevator.
Good to know. Good to know. Fantastic. And then Strut, when is this happening?
So it's happening next Friday, March 13th at Next Door on Hotel Street.
Another historic part right here in Chinatown, which, I mean, Chinatown's imbued with so many historical places of significance and importance. So I think it's really cool that you're nestled right here in the heart.
Right.
I have a frog in my throat. Woo. I just evicted that frog. So if you were to tell me your dream vision for the burlesque or even the performance community in Hawaii, what would you like to see happen? I mean, there's always room for improvement. There's always something to happen. You've been instrumental in nurturing and fostering a lot of different artists in different fields. But what do you think is the next step? Here it is, 2015, and you're granted a wish from the fairy godmother.
I personally think that we need a venue dedicated to somewhere between the middle, because it's really hard and expensive to do a show at Hawaii Theater. So, and then the Arts at Mark's Garage is a great venue, but it's so small. So I would love to see a 200-seat theater.
It's one of the things I think, as metropolitan and as cosmopolitan as we think we are in Honolulu, give ourselves a little credit, we're completely lacking that space.
Right.
And I completely agree. If you want to have something, and this is not a slag, but you know, Mamiya Theater or Paliku or Hawaii Theater, that's very cost prohibitive if you're a producer and you're not doing crowdfunding. And then there's ample bars, but some venues are just not maybe appropriate in terms of the space or the lighting, or for the artists themselves. They don't feel comfortable performing in a bar. Like if you're doing classical Indian dance, trust me, they don't want to perform in a bar for obvious reasons. So yeah, why don't we have that? Who should we write? We need to write like our congressperson or something. I'm surprised that no one has taken the lead, because it seems like it's such a no-brainer to have something like that.
Right. So that's my goal for the community, and not just for burlesque, but for everybody who is ready to step outside of, you know, the starting point, which is filling a small theater, but they're not quite at the level of Hawaii Theater. I think it's definitely something that would help the arts community in general.
Do you think it's essential that it has to be in any one part of town? I mean, do you foresee that it has to be in Chinatown or downtown, or do you think like Field of Dreams, if they build it, they will come?
I think so. I think if you're an artist producing quality work, people will come no matter where you are. Maybe not all the way on the North Shore, Waianae, definitely in town, but I don't think there's a specific neighborhood.
And I guess for my final question, what do you feel that burlesque has provided you? How has it enriched your life? Like the biggest thing, like, you know, if you were at a Burlesque Anonymous meeting and you said, this is how it changed my life, what would it be?
It made me comfortable in my own skin, basically. And up until probably my 3rd year of burlesque, I was really shy and uncomfortable with my body. And I'm actually, 20 pounds heavier than when I started burlesque, yet more comfortable in my body because it teaches you to accept it and love it and all of that. So it sounds really cheesy and cliche, but that's
essential.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything unfolds from there once you're comfortable in your skin.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us today, Miss Lola Love.
Thank you.
You can check her out on the web. We'll put some links on the Art of Life Facebook page. Stay tuned. We've got another wonderful show here on ThinkTech Hawaii. I'm your host, Lola Chang-Leon, and we're keeping it Pono. Aloha.